Good afternoon. My name is Jim Piazza, and thank you for coming today. On February 3rd, 2017, our life changed forever. We received a phone call that no parent should ever have to receive. Our son Tim was hurt and in the hospital, and we needed to get there. Tim died on February 4th, 2017 as a result of egregious and irresponsible fraternity hazing at Penn State University. He was given lethal amounts of alcohol as part of a hazing ritual called the Gauntlet. He fell down a flight of stairs, was knocked unconscious, was severely bruised across his body. Despite being in distress, none of the fraternity members were willing to help him for fear of getting in trouble. Some even prevented others from helping. So instead, they watched him slowly die in front of them until they all went to bed. Can you imagine that? Just 1 month earlier, we were a happy family on a family trip in Pasadena, California to see Penn State play in the Rose Bowl. We came home and we sent Tim and his brother back to school to continue their college journey. It's been 4.5 years since we've had the opportunity to see his smiling face, enjoy his magnetic sense of humor, and receive one of his big bear hugs. Now we only get to visit with him in our dreams. Our family of 4 became a family of 3 overnight because of fraternity hazing. Since our son's death, we've become anti-hazing advocates. In Pennsylvania at the time, the law was very weak. It did not carry very meaningful penalties. We're still dealing with criminal trials to this day, and they are currently sitting in appeals. As I said, we, along with other parents, have been on the road as anti-hazing advocates, and we've been able to get the law changed in Pennsylvania, which became the toughest in the country. It also provides for amnesty for someone who gets help for the victim, which is important because I think about, what if that amnesty provision existed in Pennsylvania? Would somebody have stepped up to save Tim's life? Today, we are here to see a very similar law be signed in New Jersey. No parent should ever be concerned about sending their child off to college with his or her life or well-being put at risk just to join an organization.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Piazza. We are grateful to Senator Kit Bateman for introducing the Timothy J. Piazza Law against hazing in the state of New Jersey. We are also grateful to the other senators and assemblymen and women, as well as Governor Murphy, who supported the law's passing. What most people do not know is that this law was initiated by a 12-year-old boy who wrote a letter as part of a Boy Scout project to his local Senator, Kit Bateman, asking him to stiffen the laws in the state of New Jersey to deter people from engaging in hazing and hold people accountable for those that do. The egregious and life-threatening behavior that took the life of his friend, our son, Tim. If a 12-year-old boy can recognize the difference between what is right and wrong and what it means to be a friend and inclusive, we are hopeful that others will learn from this. No young man or woman should ever be subjected to life-threatening behavior for just wanting to be included. Too many young people have been hurt or killed as a result of hazing activities gone bad across the country. New Jersey, like Pennsylvania, will now have the toughest anti-hazing law in the country, thanks to this young man and the people who supported it. And now I would like to address schools, police, and DAs. You have been given a strong tool to use against hazing. Please use it to its fullest extent. Do not overlook behaviors because you think it was all in good fun, or use the boys will be boys mentality. Hazing is always done with the intent to cause harm. Let me say that again. Hazing is always done with the intent to cause harm, be it physical or psychological, and with the knowledge that it will cause harm. Most of the time, hazing starts out small, and the level of harm and danger builds progressively. But occasionally, as in our son Tim's case, it is full strength from the start. Do not overlook this behavior and give the green light to play Russian roulette with kids' lives. Protect our children, hold people accountable, and deter the dangerous practice of hazing. Thank you again for your continued support. It is now our honor to introduce Governor Murphy.
I just said to Jim and Evelyn, it's hard to know what to say after that, so I will give it my best shot, as I know the other folks who are going to have brief remarks alongside me. Thank you, Jim and Evelyn, for your words and for your and your entire family's commitment to creating a legacy for Tim that protects students and helps ensure their well-being. And please give his big brother Mike a hug for us in absentia. And I also want to acknowledge that very special young, at the time, 12-year-old Matthew Prager of Reddington. Where's Matthew? I've lost you. Stand up, man. Come on, let's go. I think Kip would agree with me, and I know the Piazza family agrees with me, that the letter he wrote was extraordinary. It wasn't long, but it was right to the point, and it captured exactly what you all had alluded to. So God bless you, Matt, and thank you for, in many respects, you're the reason why we're here today. I'm also honored to be here with the guy who's going to follow me to speak, Senator Kip Bateman, who has represented this county and community honorably and ably for nearly 40 years, Kip, at the local, county, and state levels. You have carried forward the great family legacy set by your late dad, and you've fought a lot of the right fights and have done a lot of good. And as you prepare for your next life chapters, I hope today will stand as one of the capstone moments of your career. God bless you. We're also honored to be joined by your legislative colleagues in the Rockin' 16th, Assemblyman Roy Fryman and Assemblyman Andrew Zwicker. Thank you both for being here. We're also joined by Assemblywoman, no relation, Carol Murphy is in the house, my cousin. Great to see you. We have the Acting Attorney General, Andrew Bruck, is in the house, Acting Commissioner of Education, Dr. Angelica Allen McMillan, and from, I believe, from the Secretary of Higher Education's office, Chief of Staff Sandra Gillot West. Sandra, are you here? You're in the back. Good to see you. And finally, Somerset County leadership, Chanel, is here in a big way. So we've got County Commissioners Director Chanel Robinson, Deputy Director Sarah Suey, Melanie Morano, Paul Drake, Doug Singletary. We have Clerk Steve Peter, Surrogate Tina Jallo. I know Darren Russo's not here, so please give him a high five in absentia. And I also want to thank this institution, Raritan Valley, for hosting us so graciously today. This is a common sense law. And this is what we're saying today. And again, I can't come close to Jim and Evelyn, so I'll give it a shot. But here's what we're saying. Hazing will no longer be treated with a symbolic smack on the back of the hand, or worse, a blind eye and a smirk. We will no longer tolerate actions that put anyone's presumed privilege or power over the well-being of even one of their peers. Every college and university, indeed every high school and middle school, public and private, must have on their books unambiguous anti-hazing policies and clear penalties for violations. Moreover, when hazing turns violent or deadly, it will become a matter not just for a college administrator or a school principal, but the justice system. And let there be no doubt, you will be arrested and you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I echo Evelyn's very strong words in that respect as well. At the root of this law is a recognition that hazing isn't just forcing a fraternity pledge to drink until they black out, or worse. Hazing isn't relegated to college houses with Greek letters over their doors. Forcing a high school freshman to face verbal abuse or mental anguish or intimidation or physical pain at the hands of older students to allow them to belong, say, in the locker room or in a club meeting place. That's hazing, pure and simple. It's stupid and it's wrong. Like so much else, the earlier we step in to stop this abuse, the greater our chance to change the course of the future and to ensure that what happened to Tim Piazza never happens to a student anywhere in our state. I'm reminded of the words of one of my heroes, the late Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and I quote the senator, "Tragedy is a tool for the living to gain wisdom, not a guide by which to live." It could be easy for some to listen to Tim's story, to offer mumbled condolences and then move along. Because hazing to some is just an entrenched part of college life. It's the stuff we laugh at in Animal House and Old School. It's just pranks, the price some of us have to pay for having been singled out and invited to join the so-called in crowd. Some say tragedies, such as the loss of a promising young man like Tim, are just the unfortunate worst-case scenarios brought on by some bad seeds. It's senseless to try to stop them. These people would say that this would simply be living in the second part of Senator Kennedy's statement. They think hazing is just a page in the guide by which they live, whether it be from high school or college or the workplace. They think it is unavoidable and it's acceptable. But we are not going to let what happened to Tim ever be our guide. Through the work of Jim and Evelyn and Mike and of Tim's friends and former classmates and guys like Matt and others, of legislators like Kip and his colleagues, we are using this tragedy that was his awful loss as our tool. We have gained both the wisdom and the courage to act. And we're not new to this. It's about high time we did this. On June 7th, 1873, the New York Times ran a story under a headline that read, and I quote, "West Point, hazing at the academy, an evil that should be entirely rooted out." That was 148 years ago. Today, in the year 2021, we make our strongest and best effort to pull hazing out by the root in the Garden State. Again, it is an incredible honor to be, especially with Jim and Evelyn today, and to sign this measure in a few minutes. And without any further ado, please help me welcome a friend, a great leader, a great legislator, and a guy we all know very well, Senator Kip Bateman.
Thank you very much, Governor. And let me first, really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Governor, because I know how busy you are, especially this year. And for you to take time out to come sign this bill tells you how important this legislation is. And Governor, thank you very much. And before I start my remarks, I also want to recognize our President McDonough. Thank you for allowing us to be here. And Matt, let me thank you. I mean, I know you have a very bright future because you recognized at 12 years old that there was a problem with the system and there was a problem with the law. And I thank you for your letter. And I thank you for really making this happen. Because as I know that Jim and Evelyn, my heart breaks every time I think about it, because as a parent and as a grandparent, it's your worst tragedy. It's your worst nightmare. And I commend you because you have taken that tragedy since 2017 and you have made this your cause to save other families from going through what you had to go through. I know that you've traveled the country and you've been successful in passing legislation throughout the United States, and it's so important because, as it was said earlier, when you send your child to college, the last thing you want to do is worry about their safety. So my condolences to you and to Tim's brother. Anything we say, we can never bring your wonderful son back. And he was such a promising athlete and such a promising student. Such a tragedy. But because of Matt, sometimes the system does work. And I wanted to thank, wasn't a partisan issue, the Democrats, Assemblyman Fryman, Assemblyman Swicker, Assemblywoman Murphy, they got it through the Assembly, and I thank you for that. And obviously, I thank the Governor for his help. And so let's hope, and as I end my career, this possibly could be one of the more meaningful bills I actually got passed in Trenton. And if we can prevent one more tragedy, it's all well worth it. Sorry. So again, thank you both for leading this cause, and God bless. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kip, for an extraordinary career. I can't wait to see what's next. And by the way, you said it was bipartisan. Amen to that. I also had a nice exchange with Senator Tom Kane this morning on that front. He's moving his daughter into Georgetown. Otherwise, he would have been with us. So both sides of the aisle. Speaking of which, please help me welcome one of your colleagues from the 16th, Assemblyman Roy Fryman. Roy? Pleasure.
Thank you to Jim and Evelyn. It's difficult to find the words, as we all know, about this. This is when we were dropping our children off to college, as many are right now. 3 things that were said as they were departing. I love you. Have fun. Be safe. We all, I suspect, said something very, very similar to our children when we dropped them off. I can't imagine what you have gone through. This legislation is, while it has incredible amount of important penalties associated with it, this is about prevention. This is about ensuring no one else goes through what your family has gone through. No child suffers. No child goes through the hazing experience, regardless if they come out of it on the other side. It shouldn't be. And that's what this is intended to do. This happened because of Matthew, and because Senator Bateman, to his credit, after 40 years of service, has built up a lot of capital, and he could have had almost anything on his way out, and he made phone calls to make this happen, to save lives. It was incredibly easy. I want to thank my colleagues, Assemblywoman Murphy, Assemblyman Zwicker, and virtually everybody who had no hesitation of joining on to this. I feel so horrible, as we all do, that your son's name is on this legislation. It should be a preventative measure, not in response to. Going forward, that's what we're trying to do. Avoid anything like this happening ever again. So it's an honor to be here today, and again, my condolences to your family.
And Jim, you know this, but you mentioned the amnesty provision, and we've got a very strong one in this law as well. So God willing, that will give the courage to somebody to come forward and do something that should have happened with your guy. We've got 2 members of our cabinet here today, 2 extraordinary leaders. We're going to hear brief words from each of them. First, help me welcome the Commissioner of the Department of Education. She doesn't have much going on, Dr. Angelica Allen McMillan.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor Murphy, for the opportunity to participate in today's signing of this important legislation to curb harmful hazing practices in our schools and institutions of higher education. To all the legislators who sponsored this bill, I am grateful for your commitment to protecting the safety of all New Jersey students. Fostering safe, supportive, and affirming school climates and cultures is central to the Department of Education's mission of ensuring equitable access to high-quality education. This bill's enhanced protections against hazing and requirements for boards of education to adopt policies against a dangerous practice reflect what all educators know to be true: that student learning depends on feeling safe in school, on positive social interactions, and on the security to engage with the school community without fear of risky peer pressures. This bill advances that ideal by making clear that boards of education in school districts with middle or high schools, as well as non-public middle and high schools, have an obligation to adopt and enforce written policies to meaningfully combat hazing in their schools and communicate those policies to their communities. These protections build on the tremendous work schools do day in and day out to prevent harassment, intimidation, bullying, and other harmful conduct to help ensure that all students and families feel safe at school. To the family and friends of Tim Piazza, I am truly sorry for your loss. I am a mother of 3. I cannot imagine your grief. I hope it brings some measure of comfort that Tim inspired the real change on display today to evolve our state's understanding of hazing and prevent it from causing further harm to our students. This bill also exemplifies the power of sharing our stories through civic engagement. To Matt Prager, the 12-year-old Reddington student and friend and neighbor of Tim Piazza, who wrote a letter to Senator Bateman that helped inspire this legislation, I say thank you for your bravery. Thank you. Thank you again to the state legislature for passing this bill, to Governor Murphy for signing it, and to our education community for your efforts to reduce hazing in our schools. I am confident that this bill will make New Jersey a safer place for all our students. Thank you.
Last but not least, by the way, for those of you under the tent who have not had the opportunity to come up to the podium, let me assure you, you agree with me, we could fry some eggs right here on this podium. So I'll say last but not least, no pressure, Andrew. But Evelyn made the point. It's one thing to have the right laws. It's another thing to enforce them. And this is the Chief Law Enforcement Officer in the state of New Jersey, Acting Attorney General Andrew Bruck.
Thank you, Governor, for the introduction. So, as the state's Chief Law Enforcement Officer, there is nothing that would make me happier than if our office never had to use this law. And as a father, nothing would make me happier than if the mere threat of prosecution, combined with the anti-hazing policies that every district must now prepare, were enough to deter the type of illegal conduct that this law targets. But I know that we can't guarantee that. I know that there's a risk that hazing will still happen, despite everything that we're doing here today. And my promise to you, Evelyn and Jim, is that if illegal hazing happens in this state, we will hold them accountable. We will use the tools that the governor and the legislature have given to us, and we will hold accountable those who break the law. I don't care if it's the president of the oldest fraternity at Rutgers. I don't care if it's the social chair of the fanciest eating club at Princeton. If you break the law, we will hold you accountable, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. That is how we honor Tim's life, and that's how we honor your advocacy on behalf of Tim. Thank you.
Well said, Andrew. I'm now going to have the honor of signing this bill, and again, among other things, it increases penalties. It has that amnesty provision. It broadens the definition of what hazing is, and it requires every institution, district or institution of higher education, I think by January 15th of 2022, if I'm right, Kip, to have a plan in place of exactly how they're going to approach the scourge of hazing. With that, it's my honor to move over and sign this thing. We have this on here because if we had not, these pens are literally not holdable under the sun. They're turned into a weapon of some sort. Matt Stanishi is going to help me. By the way, Branchburg Councilman right here in Somerset County is going to help me distribute these pens, and then maybe afterwards we can take a few pictures. That would be okay. So, here goes. This is Senate Bills number 84 in 2093. The name at the top of the sponsor list is Christopher Kip Bateman, and he's joined on there by Senator Troy Singleton, Linda Greenstein, Tom Keane Jr. I mentioned, as well as Carol Murphy. Carol, great to see your name, Luke Greenwald, Roy Fratton. In the synopsis, which I always like to read to remind everybody what we're doing here, is requires institutions of higher education in public and non-public high schools and middle schools to adopt anti-hazing policies, expands activities encompassing criminal hazing and upgrades penalties for engaging in these activities. And I don't know that I've been prouder in my 3 years and 8 months as governor to sign a piece of legislation, frankly, as emotional as I am as we sign this. This is the 24th. Yes, sir. First pen not surprisingly, goes to Jim Piazza. Jim, God bless you. We'll do a shot up here. Second, Ken, Evelyn, bless you. God bless you, God. Good Mike, God bless. Speaking of which, Matt, come on back. This one is for Mike. Jeff Bateman, bless you, buddy. Yeah, I need one more. Sorry. Assemblyman Roy Fryman. Using a middleman here, Roy, that's all. Assemblyman Andrew Zwicker. Andrew, thank you. Assemblywoman Carol No Relation Murphy. Dr. Angelica Allen McMillan, Commissioner. Thank you. Attorney General Andrew Bruck. Andrew, thank you. And I think most importantly, one, Matthew Prager. With great passion, emotion, and I think we should all feel like something good has come from an unspeakable tragedy. This is now the law of the land.